Welcome to Knock Your Socks Off, the podcast that knocks your socks off. I'm Ravi.
I'm Hannah.
And we're joined by a very special guest.
Lo.
And Lo, you're here to knock our socks off with...
effects art in regards to horror movie effects art.
Very... and for those, obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, we do put the podcast fully on youtube.com/KYSO podcast.
Yeah.
And why we paused awkwardly is because Lo is currently holding a severed head with realistic hair, and wow, it's very creepy actually.
Of her own making. So, you know, if you want to get the visuals, find us on YouTube.
I'm actually very proud of the hairline. It took like 2 weeks of delicately punching in hair by hair with a little needle.
It looks stunning. It really is an impressive thing, and we're excited to dive in. Lo, how did you get into the world of effects?
When I was maybe like 13, I watched Event Horizon, and I think I was just really bored and also have like a natural troll spirit. So I thought, I'm going to prank my sister. So I picked up some toilet paper and like glue, white glue, and just stuck it on my face. And I made it look like I had cuts, kind of like, spoiler, the guy from Jurassic Park has at the end of the movie. What's that actor's name? I forgot.
Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot too. Awkward.
Sam something. Well, he has a bunch of cuts in his face at the end of the movie, like Freddy Krueger. So I did that, and I knocked on her door, and she opened the door and said, "Oh my God, get out of here!" And that's how I knew I did a good job. So it naturally just snowballed from there and turned into a career.
What an origin story.
I'm sorry. Can we go back real quick? Your parents let you watch Event Horizon at how old?
At 13?
Okay, 13. Okay, I thought for some reason you said like 7 or something or 8, and I was like, what parent is showing? To be fair, though, there are those weird-ass parents, like Deadpool 3 just hit theaters.
My dad is totally that kind of a parent.
That would have taken you to like see Deadpool at like 8 years old?
Well, he took me to see Pan's Labyrinth at 10 because he was like, this is a movie about fairies. You love fairies, you know?
And then, spoiler, it's not. It's about way more fucked up things.
But yeah, that's another movie that actually also inspired my love of like creature work and things like that, Pan's Labyrinth, because, you know, you have all the practicals mixed with CG, which I think is the sweet spot of, you know, really just bullshitting the camera. I don't know if I can say that.
We swear all the fucking time on this, so don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You showed us a severed head. I think decorum is like, you know, we're able to just say anything we want on this thing.
Well, it's actually an interesting thing. You said one of the questions, you know, I had for you was CGI versus practical. And you just said like the sweet spot is both of those like mixed together. Can you give an example of that, like in what you've seen? And then is there an example of what you've done where there's been a good mix of the two?
As for like my own work, unfortunately, I haven't been in anything yet where they've blended with CG. But I think the sweet spot is truly like get as far as you can with practical and then blend the seams with CG. That way it's the actors interacting with something physical. There's a noticeable difference in performance and how everyone cares about the project and kind of like how people act on set in regards to it. It's just way more impressive for a lot of people. It makes it real for whoever's on set, basically.
Right.
And then CG just does the little cleanup work here and there. Pirates is an excellent example of like something that blends practical and CG.
That's very true. I mean, the tentacle pirate guy with the thing with his face.
Davy Jones.
Is it Davy Jones?
No,
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm not a big fan of the Pirates movies, to be fair.
Whoa, what?
Well, no, that was Barbossa. Davy Jones also had, I think, tentacles, but
Barbossa, yeah,
which is, I think, was that Jeffrey Rush.
I like the first one, but like then there's a billion more, and I don't get
says the person who loves Star Wars. Who, like, there's one, and then there's a billion.
This
more.
is totally off topic, but I was actually looking it up yesterday because we got curious about the budget of the Pirates movies because of that. Because I was like, damn, they built a whole practical ship
They did.
and like, you know, practical water stage, which is wicked expensive. It's more expensive than the Infinity War movie.
Wait,
That's
I'm
wild.
sorry. Wait, the budget for the first or
The budget for the third Pirates movie is more expensive than Infinity War.
Holy jeez.
Which is crazy because Infinity War has like all these crazy things.
Sure, but I mean, this is a great question. Like, so Infinity War, obviously a Marvel film, it is like CGI clusterfuck where it's
100%.
you know, those actors. Most of them weren't even in the same room when they shot a lot of those scenes. Right?
Oh yeah, you save a lot of money that way versus in Pirates where they dragged a ship out to the like sand dunes or whatever for one shot.
Yeah. Which is like impressive for the sake of when you really think about like what an actor can also do when they don't have practicals, or like the fact that like I always love in like the Phantom Menace or Attack of the Clones background, like behind the scenes or whatever, when you see Ewan McGregor and Hayden just like in front of a blue screen, like just like having a good time, but also like trying to act. And it's like, I totally can understand how a practical set would allow for an actor to be like way more sunk in and way more in depth with
You get real
their
horrified
acting.
reactions from
Yeah.
people when you blow a squib gun right in front of them and they get covered in blood. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, you've heard the infamous story, I would imagine, of the original Alien film, and where Ridley Scott didn't tell
No.
the actors that something was about to bust out of this dude's chest, and the reactions that you see on camera, legit reactions.
Because he got something to bust out of someone's chest?
Yeah, and he didn't tell the
The-
actors it was going to happen, so they had no
I
idea.
know what you're talking about, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, how does I mean, how would
Yeah,
one
expl-
do
yeah,
that?
let me explain that.
Explain that practical effect. Like, is it like a vest you're wearing that like would explode? Like, is
It
that
would-
kind of like how?
For that one, it would definitely have to be a rig. I think that's exactly what they did on that movie, where they already had the actor sitting down with the air compressor and all this stuff
Ah.
rigged to him, had everyone sit down and stage the scene, and then, okay, first take, let's go. You know, it just comes
Yeah.
out of his chest and scares everybody. Like,
Dude. I
But-
mean, oh, sorry. keep
oh
going.
no, that's all I was gonna say. But that's the beauty of practicals. It's in some way you are kind of like a magician and you're bullshitting the camera.
You really are. I mean, would you say like, because like, you know, we're giving examples of like pretty intense ones of like, right, bringing a ship out to somewhere to shoot that, or like, right, a big alien coming out, or like, I also often think like if you're doing a shooting effect in a thing, like someone wears a vest that like pops out. But like, I mean, special effects also have to happen in like really subtle ways. Yeah. Like it's not always just like these big, massive explosions or, you know, death scenes. Like I imagine there's also like, what's an example of like a subtle effect? You know what I mean? That's also like fun to do.
Whenever a character ages in something, age is
Oh, sure.
actually really hard to get right because it's
Yeah.
like there's all these little subtleties and stuff. You have to have like a really crazy prosthetic. It's often best to just sculpt your
Yeah.
own,
Hmm.
unless it's like a lower budget thing, then you can out of kit. But it's really hard to get aging right.
Yeah.
It, like
That's
done-
a great call out.
done well, it's seamless. Done wrong, you're like, oh man, that person's wearing like 5 pounds of like
Yo.
shit all over their
Yeah.
face.
Did you ever watch This Is Us?
I don't think I have.
Okay.
Does
So
that one
it's
have
just-
like good aging?
Well, it was just was a conversation piece often because you had the Mandy Moore character like in like 10, like throughout the show, especially like, I mean, 15, 20 different ages that she represented. But like specifically, like she was most primarily like old, like way older, like a grandma age, and like, almost like near death in a sense. But people like kind of like, I didn't even think about the aging piece, but you're right. Like people talked a lot about like, I think people put it in like makeup world, but being in the effects world makes so much sense to me to where it's like, you have to show people who hold
Just like
different
subtle
aging.
aging. Either that or like in like biographies, when someone wants to win an Oscar, they hit up an effects artist to make them a fake nose or a fake chin or, you know.
That's how you get an Oscar. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
or a biopic. It's like, oh, just age the person.
Let me get a
Right.
really cool dental plate custom.
Yeah.
Gives me a lisp.
Or
Yeah.
or if you're Christian Bale, you put on a crap ton
I
of
was gonna
weight
say.
to play Dick Cheney.
Yeah. Well-
Isn't there? What's his face? Is coming out with a film, Sebastian Stan, right, where he's playing Trump.
Yeah.
That one's coming out soon,
Yeah,
and
I
like the prosthetics on that look
No,
decent.
he's not playing Trump.
I
don't
thought
think
he was playing
Sebastian Stan is.
Trump.
I think he's
Off-brand
playing
Trump.
Yeah, I don't know.
Cheeto man.
I don't
I don't know.
The other, what was it? I just literally had the question in my head. Oh yeah. So when you, it's a good question. Like when you are looking between effects and then makeup, specifically with like aging, is it a blend of both, or is it primarily one over the other, or depending on the film budget?
Everything depends on the budget. Like I said,
Sure.
it's a degree of bullshitting, and then you have to bullshit even further because as soon as you get on set, you're often told one thing, and then situations change, schedules change. You thought you had 2 hours, you have 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like how good of an effects artist you are is really measured in your ability to bullshit out of a bad situation.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it really is kind of like, oh, you need to make this old person like in under an hour. Versus
Right.
like you have a Grinch amount of 6+ hours, you know?
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
Yeah.
everything is dependent on budget and
Mhm.
kind of like, you know, how organized or how, you know, anything can go wrong basically.
Mhm.
One time I got on a job where I had to make someone old. Tom, shout out if you're watching. And the prosthetics were transfer prosthetics and they actually there was an alcohol leak in my bag and then they wouldn't stick to the actor's face. And I'm like,
Wait, so can you explain a transfer prosthetic?
so there's different kinds of prosthetics. There's ones that are a transfer prosthetic is made out of like a gluey material, and it's you can't put alcohol or anything on it because then it'll start to like dissolve and just not.
Ooh.
Oh.
You know, there's
Yeah.
like there's different kinds. There's Prozaid transfers. There's water transfers. Then the best cream of the crop is a foam latex prosthetic. Oh, we lost the light.
All right, so we've talked about, we have aging, like we have big effects, we have the small ones. Kind of where do you most like to kind of sit in the extreme genre of things or more subtle like effects world in a sense?
I think extreme is always way more fun.
Yeah. What do you have like a favorite like project you've done or like
I
or
recently
head you've made or anything?
Oh yeah, I really like this head. This was actually for one of my friends' movies that featured like 10 different kills. So we got to get really creative and like there was a lot of back and forth with each one. And each death was like, oh, we'll do it in a reveal or we're gonna really scare the audience if we do this, just we got to get really disturbing with that one. The more disturbing the better, because you can kind of get creative with the way skin moves or like a gore effect or
How long does everything is so unique per project or whatever, but like maybe for example, for the head you're holding, how long did that take?
maybe a month of work.
A month?
Yeah, just because of the hair, the actual molding process was really quick, but the hair, if a hair of head, a head of hair, there you go.
that one.
Head of hair.
Yeah. There you go. If it's gonna be shown fully on camera and it needs to have a really detailed hairline, that's like days of just me sitting there with my arthritic old lady hands and like punching every individual hair.
Mm-hmm. And so did this head specifically match an actor you were working with, or is this just was this just a head that was gonna fall off? I don't know.
Let the bodies hit the ground.
Did you have like a reference point, or is it always just kind of like this is coming from the mind of Lo? Like this is what
one's molded from the actress specifically, so it's like an exact likeness of her. Oh, it's really uncanny valley whenever she poses with it in pictures because she really likes like just hanging out with it whenever she comes over.
And she's like, "This is my baby."
I have like a collection of friends' projects or things, it's like, oh, this is Blank's arm or that person's leg.
Of course.
Or like Floyd's everything.
That's amazing. Do you have anything of yours? Like, have you ever like sculpted yourself? Or,
Yeah.
are there any low heads walking around?
Low heads.
I actually have my own torso because for my own film, I decided I needed more like really zombie looking bodies, like really dehydrated, like skinny, emaciated bodies. So I just cast myself. It was actually a mistake.
You're like, this is now a self-portrait. What is happening?
Why was it a mistake?
It was an experiment in sort of I tried to do it to see if I could and didn't stop to think if I should sort of thing. Like the thing it was me alone with a mirror propped up over me and just kind of slathering this silicone on myself and then the plaster bandages and then realizing, fuck, I can't get out of this.
Like, I'm here. I'm now in this shape forever. I've fallen and I can't get up.
Were you like that meme with the dog in the room that's burning? You're like, everything is fine.
Yep. And then it completely suctioned to my body. So I like had to walk around and find a scalpel to like, create a little air pocket to free myself out of. It turned out great. It looks really good.
It looks great. The process getting there is torturous, but
yeah, it was very much like for a minute there was a moment of holy shit, I can't get out of this thing.
Truly
panic,
oh,
freaking out.
Honestly, no, thank you. Did you make any of these on the table as well?
No, but I have fixed them over the months because everything in this room takes a lot of wear and tear. It gets thrown at customers or bitten by me, so
just really interactive.
I pretend to munch on a lot of these, so I've had to repaint them a lot, I don't even know what body part this is anymore.
It looks like it would be like the wrist.
Or like a kneecap maybe or something.
I don't actually know. Customers have thrown this at me to try and get me to go away. You see, at my day job, I'm a bit of a professional sleep paralysis demon.
So no big deal. Small things, it's fine.
If you like looking at the entire effects industry and the various kind of processes and things need to be done, like silicone making, hair, etc., like is there one that you find to be the most annoying, and how would you fix it? And then number two, like, what do you find to be like the most fun to work with? Like, what material or process?
Up until recently, I thought gelatin was like the most fucking annoying thing in the world.
Oh,
but I developed a newfound respect for it because I had to do a job kind of like that Indiana Jones face melty effect. And I actually went and I hit up all of the old heads who worked on those movies and was like, how do I do this? What temperature? What, And I kind of, I grew and respected it. But before I used to think gelatin was so annoying because I've used it for smashing head effects and transporting it is a nightmare. You have to like keep it at a very consistent temperature. It'll start to melt in your car on the drive up. You have to strap it in and, be very careful when moving it. Hair punching it is a nightmare. It's just like gelatin in general. I was like, fuck gelatin.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Up until recently, that is.
And then, and for the uneducated me, so when you say gelatin, like Jello type material?
Similar.
Or?
It's a very similar material. It's kind of like gelatin, like what's in dog food. It smells kind of like,
gotcha.
I see.
and
So it's not edible, right?
On a technical level, it kind of is, but not when you mix in like the sorbitol and all the other stuff that makes it like an effect,
Got it.
And the paint. But I used to think gelatin was like the worst thing in the world. And now after working with it and kind of learning the tricks and what it could actually do, I'm like, respect. A lot of effects is building on what people 3 generations before have already done and just like redoing and changing things here and there.
Yeah. Do you have like coolers and stuff at your house just for transporting effects kind of thing that are like for a temperature specific thing or whatnot?
Amazon box with ice packs.
Yes, there it is.
I mean, it works. Whatever works, right?
You're like, listen, this has got to be a one-time shot.
It's all about keeping them costs down.
Exactly.
That's actually interesting. So like back on the CGI versus like practical, like from a cost perspective, with early computers and technology, et cetera, like the original Jurassic Park films, that tech to build out those dinosaurs via CGI was very expensive. Obviously the cost of CGI has come significantly down over the last couple of years. Are we at a point where the cost is the same effect versus like practical versus CG, or is there still an upside over one over the other?
On the lower budget scale, you should still definitely go with practical. It's just kind of like a VFX team will cost you way more in the long run. You can always shoot with a practical and then clean up later with a VFX if something doesn't look right. On the larger budgeted side of things, like effects is kind of becoming a little bit of a dying art. Like it's seen as like it's seen as kind of like something that like auteur directors go for, but not everyone goes for anymore. Like big Marvel movies are barely they use effects artists to make the suits pretty much.
Gotcha.
Wow.
And that's just because of cost or just because
costs and time.
Gotcha.
Like it takes a lot of time and person hours to, mold an actor and then cast and then sculpt a piece and then cast that piece and then apply it to the actor at like a lot of on-set time versus just, okay, Tobey Maguire, jump in front of that green screen and let's go.
Yeah, no,
let's fucking go.
100%. And I would imagine too, like you were kind of saying for the sake of in those kind of films too, when people are like taking hits or whatever, like what's the word where it's like consistency throughout a film?
Consistency?
It is, but like isn't there like a
it's right
on the tip of my tongue.
Oh my god, yeah, the film term. It's like with editing.
When you need it. Continuity.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're the one in the world, so we love that for you. Like continuity as well, I would imagine, kind of where it's like versus like, I mean, obviously in a practical, like they're spending like one time like doing, we're gonna do this entire bruise here and then this weird thing here versus like if you can just like do it all the time in post. Like,
oh yeah, that's another thing about continuity. Bringing that up, that actually does increase the costs with a lot of practical stuff because if you're shooting an absolute bloodbath in one location, then you need to like, okay, we're getting another shot of that, clean that up and let's go again.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah.
So that just added like 30 minutes to your time. It really depends on the movie and like what exactly they're doing. Like how bloody we're getting. The answer is always more bloody.
Yeah. Like, let's ramp it up, folks.
So when somebody's like, is that too much blood? The answer is always no.
Yeah. I recently did a movie with a director that I really admire who shoots a lot of like neon-y stuff. And I walked in there with my little blood tubes and he walks out with a fire extinguisher and is like, oh, I was hoping we could do more. And it was like match made in heaven.
I'm like, let's fucking go.
It was like, I was hoping we could go bigger with this one. And it was like, oh wow. Excellent.
Jeez. Have you ever like ran into a situation with blood effects specifically where it's gone terribly wrong? And then how did you kind of like fix it?
Terribly wrong in the sense that like
either
what?
Like the squib fired off too early or the blood missed its target.
Oh yeah, then you just have to be Speedy Gonzalez on that cleanup. You have to like grab a wet wipe and just start hitting the actors. I a couple weeks ago the squib gun actually fired off in the Airbnb.
Oh geez. That's awkward.
No one found out because it was during a lunch break and I just took towels to everything and was like, "Oh god, why was that even loaded?"
Right. You're like, this is how accidents happen.
Yeah, it was like 100 degrees outside. So I guess something odd must have happened with the canister where it I took it in and it went and just like exploded everywhere.
Yeah, because
Wow.
like blood cancers and squib things, they're all pressurized gas, right? That's forcing it out usually.
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
that. Those are the safe, the
Yeah.
ones I can legally have. I don't have a pyro license yet, so I can't.
Wait, what would a
happening.
pyro license allow? Like, what's the difference between like? Because I would imagine like gas pressured ones would be better than whatever else does.
Well, in my opinion, they are, but maybe that's just because I'm biased and I've used them a lot more. Like, it's really easy, you just put a little car thing to it and fill it with air and then put the blood and then, and it goes.
Yeah,
You can change the pressure as well.
Right.
With an explosive one, it's basically like you.
With power.
Those are the ones more commonly used because with an air squib, you have to hide the tank somewhere on the actor or like, me being behind the actor with the trigger, like ready to blow it.
Oh.
But with an explosive one, those are better for wide shots for stuff used in like larger budgeted shows. They have a pyrotechnic specialist that straps it to the actor's chest and then just fires it from a
Remote
distance.
silly.
Yeah.
Nice. But I would imagine though, like, because they all use like typically radio frequencies. But, like, I can imagine like, oh, the camera's wireless like monitor frequency fucking that up, right?
100%.
Or it's like, geez, that could be really bad.
Yeah, and they have to wear a vest. There's like all sorts of safety things. I did a lot of research into squibs when we were working on that Western because it was like, there were a lot of like,
Yeah.
And then I just ended up getting an air one and was like, oh, this is so easy.
So, but there's like certifications. There's a whole bunch of like things in the background for an FX team that like is necessary or is better.
Yeah, just
For
like
a
how
set.
I'm kind of like, technically mine is like makeup or blood rigging or
Yeah.
I'm kind of a jack of all trades really, but like everything except fire.
There you go.
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yet. We're
Yeah,
TBD.
for that you'd have to go to a school and get like a license
it.
and kind of jump through quite a few hoops. You can't just like walk into Roger George Effects and be like, "Can I have the flameproof liquid?" I've tried.
Don't worry.
Oh,
It
they
has
actually
been-
like
it's
because they
been
track that
attempted.
shit, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah, that
It
makes
has
sense.
to, they're trying to keep tabs on all of that, so you can't
Makes
just walk
sense.
in there and buy like ballistics like stuff.
Which is fair. I guess like I respect that regulation a bit. For the sake of you never know.
I walk in there to get blood rigs, and they see me eyeing that other stuff all the time.
You're like, keep her away from that.
One
yeah,
day.
she's coming, but not quite yet. Okay, wait, I realized that we talked about gelatin in the essence of things you don't like to work with, but we didn't get like your favorite material to work with.
Silicone.
Okay, there you go. Nice.
Silicone
Nice.
is technically the most expensive, but it
Ooh.
looks the best. It has like the nicest translucency. Let me lift up that head here. She like fell. Hey, Brooke. You paint silicone in a particular way, kind of like layer by layer using primary colors, and it gives
Yeah.
such a nice like fake skin effect.
Mm.
It's really resistant, so it's like tear resistant. You can mix different stuff in it to make it softer if you need it to be chainsawed in half, or harder if you need it to be even more solid. So it's like,
Sure.
So silicone like really kind of like is a skin alternative.
yes, it's actually what's
Oh.
used. This is technically like medical grade silicone is what this is called. So
Oh.
Dang. So like what's like a CPR dummy made out of?
probably this.
Probably that. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, yeah.
or latex if they're being cheap.
Sure.
Latex is like the cheaper alternative to silicone, but you don't get the translucency and it doesn't act like skin. Like this, if you push down on it, it feels kind of like skin.
It's cold to the touch.
You know,
skin.
just like death. Exactly.
She's been dead for months.
But yeah, you can there's just no limits to what you can do with silicone. You just have to play chemist basically depending on what the job demands.
Yeah. Did it take a while for you to kind of learn that, or did you like what helped you kind of learn like the painting of things and kind of like all the coloration
With
aspects?
the art of the bullshit, you
Exactly.
say you can
I was like, literally, it's what I do all the time.
you say you know how to do something and then you put in the work and you hit up all the old effects artists and you research everything you can about the material.
Yep.
You're like, someone says, whoa, can you chainsaw my legs off in this film? And I'll be like, I can try, yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And then by the end of it, I'll have chainsawed those legs so good, they'll be like, damn, I didn't know it could look that good.
You're like, I didn't either, but now we do.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff where you'll be asked to do something that you don't even have a film reference for before,
Yeah.
where you're like, oh man, I haven't seen this done. Let's see if I can pull it off.
Yeah.
And like, just do it. Just pull it off.
100%.
It's that simple and you'll keep getting work.
Just do it low.
That's what Nike was thinking when
Yeah,
they came
they
up
were
with
like,
that ad.
"Actually,
They were
let's
like, you know what? Blood splatter.
Yeah, blood spattered chainsawing legs. Just do it.
When you, I'm actually going to steal one of Hannah's questions, if that's fine. But like when you watch movies, do you find it difficult now? now that you've been doing effects and things for so long? Like, do you sit there and you like critique it, or can you like go in and kind of turn that side of your brain off?
No, I can't turn that side of my brain off.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's less a critique and more of an appreciation.
Okay.
Like where it's like, I'll watch something and I'll be like, oh, look at how they did that kill. I think I know exactly how that was done. You know what I mean? Like a lot of that sort of stuff, especially if it's like an older horror movie, because I use a lot of old techniques to do stuff. Because that's, like I said, you're just building on old stuff. So I like will watch something and be like, wow, that was a really cool. Look how they sliced that neck. You know?
Yeah.
I gotta wonder, like, is your YouTube search history like
very cursed?
Truly.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Especially like when it came to my movie, I did a lot of research on really gory stuff to kind of get like, there's like an effect where someone, spoiler, gets like sliced face, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at a lot of injury stuff for that. Or for this movie.
Lo, are you on a watch list?
Terrifying. I know, right? Someone, your FBI agent's like, wow, she's really going on a weird dive today. This is terrifying.
No, they get concerned if it's like Lo's looking up like
joyful
like
sunshine.
chill
Yeah.
lo-fi music. It's like, no, something's gone wrong.
Something is wrong. The algorithm is breaking.
I look up like aquarium backgrounds and chill music.
What is like you're building something, you're saying like the head took like a month or something of that nature. Like what is like set the scene for us of like you're gonna like spend a handful of hours or whatever doing it. Like do you like listen to certain music? Do you like have certain things that like inspire anything, or is it just like you get in the zone and you're doing it?
So it's kind of like there's often times where you're gonna have to cram in work where you're actually really tired. My secret to this is to not only buy an energy drink, but you have to blast Australian EDM music circa 2005 through 2012 really loud.
Specific. I like the prescription there.
I didn't even know Australians had EDM music.
2005. Specifically 2005.
Specifically 2005 to 2007.
It's like cringecore EDM somehow for some reason.
Oh my
like
God, I love it.
Pavlovian brain dogs my brain into actually getting the work done.
Gotcha.
I think it's because when I was learning to do effects and it was like a really exhausting, like I basically went to effects boot camp. I like would listen to that music to keep myself awake and still keep sculpting through the night, like all crazy.
That's
if I start to get unmotivated, I'll watch Meet the Feebles in the background. Something about those puppets just like really, you know, it allows me to keep pushing on. Like if Peter Jackson could do something so cool.
Lois like Bucky Barnes. Like you just have to give her like the 4 words and then she's like going. Like I can't stop and I won't stop until everybody that I need to be murdered is murdered. Quite literally, like in some fashion, quite appropriately.
What's one thing that you wish you like if you had a magic wand and you could just change something about the effects industry? What would you change?
Definitely the way people see cost versus time versus it's very common for people to tell you one thing and then try and short you out close to the finish line. But it's more because it's less because they're trying to do that and more because they just don't understand how much hours actually goes into, you know, like the research aspect of it, the testing aspect of it. You're not just going out there with an effect that's untested. You're like
testing it. Yeah.
You're trying to make this movie look really good.
Yeah, right. You're like, listen, I'm not trying to spend a whole bunch of money to make it look bad. It's like I'm trying to elevate the entire moment. That makes sense. That's a good wish. We've been talking a bit about like CGI and practical. I would say practical effects feel very nostalgic, and CGI is like kind of like the new wave. But then, of course, like we're finding the blending of that. You have like a favorite, like kind of like old film, like really like had the good
The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
The
magnum opus of effects films is The Thing.
Just because of the practical use, the creature, or
all of the above.
everything?
That film actually put the Rob Bottin, I think I'm mispronouncing your last name and I apologize. He put him in the hospital. He was head of effects on that movie when he was in his early 20s. And he worked on it for a full year, all day, every day, was coming up with crazy shit. Like, what if this dog shoots tentacles, you know?
Damn.
He even like inspired other artists like Stan Winston to come in and like be like, yeah, I'm gonna help you make this dog fiberglass body. Take a break, dude.
Take a break. Please.
But like the effects in that movie are like if you go back and watch that one, it's meaty. Like it's like some of the stuff, the materials they were using at the time, like latex, okay, you can see how it's kind of like we've advanced since then. But there's still some stuff in that movie that like made my brain explode even when I watch it now. Where it's like, what the hell?
How'd they do that?
Twisted. I like that.
Before we close it out, I guess last question for you, Lo. what modern day film in the last like 10 years that's come out, what like horror film, I guess, do you absolutely dislike because of its effects?
Oh no.
You
don't have to answer that.
Only name 3.
for liability reasons, because the effects world is so small, and we all rub elbows and we all know each other. I cannot have an opinion on this. I'll tell you which film of the recent years had really good effects was both of the Terrifier movies. Those had good effects, you know?
Okay,
nice.
That guy like pulled some crazy shit because he was directing it and doing the effects. And I'm doing that right now, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So
do you actually like want to give a preview or even name drop your film that you're working on?
The film is called Gutter Snipe, and it's probably it's a really demented 16mm shot, haha, Ravi, feature, and it's probably going to come out next year. You know, I've been doing a lot of crazy effects work for it in the past like couple years.
I like it. Do you feel like there's like a good like when you know a director also like worked on the effects that like it has like an extra punch to that too, kind of?
Definitely in the case of Terrifier, that one is nasty. You can tell that guy like knew exactly how to shoot the effects that he had made.
Yeah.
To the max, where it's like, oh god.
I love it.
Very cool. And Lo, where thank you again for jumping on this, like blowing our brains with effects and not actually blowing our brains out.
Yeah.
Where can the people find you on the internet if they want to see some of your work?
Totally.
I'm gonna actually get a website soon because Instagram has been shadow banning a lot of my effects posts.
I wonder why.
Sus.
So Instagram right now at Made of Horror 13. Unfortunately, don't have the website yet, but good things coming soon.
Exactly.
Very cool.
I like it.
And for us, for Knock Your Socks Off, you can find us on TikTok, as always, at KYSO Podcast, and on YouTube, youtube.com/KYSO Podcast. New pods every Saturday. Until then, I don't know, have some tea.
Yeah, exactly. Soothe yourself. Do whatever you need to do to be okay.
And go watch some horror movies.
There you go. That's a good one.
Cheers.